Hi class, so now in this group we're going to be talking about chapter 8. We're going to be talking about yokes, midriffs, and then we'll be dealing with some other style lines. But a yoke is basically a panel from across the shoulder. A midriff is below the apex, and then we'll be dealing with some other design panels. The first example that I want to talk to is a midriff, kind of like the stylized design line that we just worked on, where it's below the apex line. So we're going to be backing off the dart, closing the dart, and also drafting our new style line here. And then this will become two separate pieces. We will have some shearing and blending in here to connect between those style lines. So the first thing that we want to do is to draw our basic block exactly as is, where you're tracing off all the elements there, including the waist dart. Then what we want to do is pivot the waist dart closed and redraft that line so it's going to where you want it to, opening up a new dart from your at the bust line basically. So we're going to be pivoting into that bust line so that we can create a new style line. And from there, we're going to draft a new stylized seam. So the first, I'm going to trace the bodice off onto our craft paper so that we have it nice and stable. And then we will put it onto the point paper so that we can see how the style line works. So first I'm going to trace off. It is exactly as is, including all the necessary notches, such as the armhole notch. We want to make sure we're including our legs of our waist dart, and that we're punching through our bust point. So there we have our natural apex of our bust point. Before we go any further, let's make sure we square and blend as needed all the points. Remember, perpendicular, squared, true. These are the key elements that make a good pattern. Make sure you have your armhole dart that we're going to be there and our dart legs. Now what we're going to be doing is closing this waist dart. So where I'm going to pivot this dart closed. And now I'm going to be retracing this line. So my new style line is here. I'm going to cut it out for you so you can see. Let's go back. Center front, side seam. Armhole. Neckline. These are my true dart legs. We're going to get rid of this excess by closing out the dart. And I'm going to create a slash line here so that we can pivot this dart closed. I'm going to pivot this dart closed. And now we have our center front. This is still the center front. Looks like this. So we have this new dart that opened up here at our center front bust spline area. But we want to create a style line that goes from the French position up through the center front area, so just below the apex. So as if it was coming from like a sweetheart curve. So now that we've created this, we're going to have this open dart here. We want to decide where we want the style line to go. So if you want the style line to come below in this position, I want my French curve here, and I'm going to create the style line. Just go, boop. True sweetheart princess, very Cinderella. Nice sweetheart line. Comes up into a point here at this center front area. And then I'm going to want shearing and gathering here underneath the bust. Again, these are all design lines. So what I'm creating is a design feature. And let's say I want this shearing and gathering to come through. Remember, at a bare minimum, you can't go. We have to have some control, at least 5/8 inch. So in this, I want 3 inches here. Let's say I want it to be 3 inches from the side seam for this particular gathering, and I want it to back off from the center front. Let's make it equal. I'm going to say this is another 3 inches here from the center front. I need to put, these will be my control notches to control how much I want shearing from each side to side. This is a design detail. We're going to separate these into 2 pieces. We have, this is your midriff, which is the lower portion of your bodice, and then this is your upper portion of your bodice. This section, midriff, because it's the middle of the garment. Upper bodice. Upper bodice, midriff. Center front, center grain. I'm going to slash along my style line to create 2 separate pieces. I want to make sure this is secured. So I'm cutting on my style line to create 2 separate pieces. So I now have a midriff and an upper bodice, but I want there to be shearing and gathering in through this section here. And in order to do that, I need to take the dart excess from the center front bust dart and put it here into this midriff section. So now I simply have to release this, which we have closed, and close that dart back up again. So I'm going to pivot my dart closed. I'm creating 2 separate pieces here. I'm closing my dart, and now what we're going to do is have to blend that back together. So you can see it's created this very jagged line. This is where I want my shearing to go. So let's establish our grain and secure these pieces down. Center front. So my upper bodice, I'll secure to the center front. That's one piece. And then I have my midriff, which is another piece. They can both be cut on the fold. The midriff could be cut on the fold. This could be 2 separate pieces with a seam. It's whatever you need it to be based on the consumption that you have of the garment. How wide is your fabric? What you're going to need to do is this is our control notches. Make sure we transfer those. We need to blend this back. So I'm going to take another marker here so you can see the blending. We want to make sure that all this excess, we're blending back between the control notches. So it's nice and smooth. All of this is going to be shearing and gathering between this section and this section. So you basically added the dart excess back. That's going to be how much shearing and gathering you have going on in the inside that area. Now what you'll have to do is add your seam allowances. So let's just say for the purpose of it, this one will be cut on the fold. And the midriff piece will be also cut on the fold. So this is going to be now 2 different pieces, but one style. We need to name each part, but have them understand how many pieces are in this pattern. So when you go to name it, your name, this is your front bodice with midriff, bust, gathers, cut 1 on fold, and it's the year and the size. And then same thing down here. This is going to be your midriff, cut 1 on fold, size 8. Make sure that you transfer your notches into your seam allowance. Remember, this is 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 of an inch, 1/2 inch on the seam allowance for the seam. This is cut on the fold, so you wouldn't need, and then 1 inch hem. And this one is 701. Yes, 701.